Dear friends, imagine a pencil spoke saying, "Look at the beautiful poem I wrote. Look at the wonderful masterpiece I created. See how talented I am." We would probably laugh because we know very well that a pencil can do nothing unless someone picks it up and writes with it. The first reading presents a very similar lesson. Assyria had become powerful. God had allowed it to be used for his own purposes. But somewhere along the way, Assyria forgot this. Instead of recognizing that God was working through it, it began to think, "Look what we have achieved by our own strength." It forgot that its power and victories were all under God's providence. That is why God asks a very strong question. Shall the axe want itself over him who hews with it? In other words, can an axe boast to the woodcutter and say, "Look at the trees I have cut down"? No, the axe can do nothing unless someone picks it up and uses it. It is very much like the pencil boasting to the author. The instrument forgets the hand that guides it. Assyria forgot God. And if we are honest with ourselves, this temptation can happen to us as well. When things go well, when people appreciate us, when our talents are recognized, little by little we can begin to think it is all because of us. We focus on the I, the me, and the my, and forget the one who made it possible. The gospel today shows us a completely different attitude. Jesus says, "I thank thee, Father, Lord of heaven and earth." These words become even more striking when we remember who Jesus is. Jesus is not a prophet or a holy man. He is God. As St. John tells us, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Thus the Son of God became man for our sake. Furthermore, St. Paul tells us that though he was in the form of God, he emptied himself and took the form of a servant. This is where today's gospel completes the lesson of the first reading. Assyria was only an instrument, yet it behaved as though it were the master. It forgot the hand that guided it, boasting in its own wisdom. Jesus, however, is the master, yet he lives in perfect, humble communion with the Father, inviting us to follow him on the path of spiritual childhood. Furthermore, God became man in the person of Jesus, not merely to teach us moral lessons. He came to save us, to reconcile us to the Father, and to show us what true sonship looks like. In Jesus, we see the perfect Son, the one who receives everything from the Father and returns everything to the Father in love and obedience. As St. Paul says, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Therefore, when we want to know how to live, pray, and serve, we must look to Christ. Through baptism, we are united to him. We are not sons by nature as Jesus is, but in him we become adopted sons and daughters of God, as St. Paul says in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 5. We remain instruments in God's hands, but instruments loved as children. Therefore, let us not be like Assyria, which forgot God and gloried in its own strength. Rather, let us learn from Christ, the eternal Son, who reveals the Father to the humble and teaches us to live in gratitude, trust, and obedience. Then, as adopted sons and daughters in him, we too shall come to know the Father more deeply and give him the glory that is his due. Amen.